Hello, and welcome to the Where People Meet podcast, the event technology podcast for the worldwide meetings and events industry. I'm your host, Mitch Malinsky, Head of Strategic Partnerships here at Feedloop in beautiful Toronto, Canada. And today I'm joined by Kyle Kocinski, Implementation Manager at Endless Events, one of the leading event production companies in the United States. Endless Events specializes in event production, technology, creative, and strategy to help create the perfect equation for their clients' events. In his role at Endless, Kyle wears a number of different hats, which forces him to stay up to date on the latest trends in the industry. From overseeing platform implementation and consultation on the strategy behind an event to leading R&D and development of partnerships with event technology platforms, Kyle has amassed a wealth of experience when it comes to the wonderful world of events. In addition to his work with Endless Events, Kyle is also a founding member of the EventProfs Community, an online community where event professionals can swap ideas, ask for help, and connect with other professionals in the event space. It's a real privilege to host such an experienced professional on the podcast, and I'm really excited for what's sure to be an insightful conversation. So Kyle, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really looking forward.
Thank you, Mitch. It's so good to be here, and it's always great to talk to you. I don't think I've ever had an introduction quite like that, so really excited to kick off the conversation today.
Amazing. I did my research, but I think this is going to be really great. So again, thank you so much for your time. But just to let the audience know.
Today I'm calling in from northern Colorado, so only about 15 minutes from the mountains and about 30 minutes from the best cherry pie you probably can find.
Ooh,
yeah.
Fantastic. Love it. All right. Well, Kyle, let's start with you telling everyone, the listeners, a bit about yourself and your background in the meetings.
So I first got into events just by volunteering when I was in high school. There was a lot of different organizations in my community that were planning runs, or they were planning walks, or they were planning fundraisers. So a lot of times I would just show up early and start helping out just to, whoever needed a hand to get the event ready. As I went into college and university, I started getting more into the concerts. So I went to school at the University of Florida in Gainesville, Florida, where Tom Petty really got to start to his music. And being there, I started following a lot of the local bands, and we started helping put together shows for them to help get more promotion. And we learned all about the music and promotion industry. And that really led me into working music festivals. So I went in the summers to different concerts and festivals and helped with site operations and artist hospitality at these festivals, which were just different teams that helped create a much larger experience for the event. And those teams were really exciting for me because you need the structure for the event, and you need your artists and your entertainers to feel happy. And as the pandemic kind of rolled into a storm, a lot of our clients that I was working with in Chicago, they decided to either cancel or they decided to move to a virtual format. So we helped really a lot of not-for-profits turn their traditionally in-person events into a virtual challenge that lasted much longer than just the one-day event that they may have been having traditionally in person. So it really got us using more event technology at these events. And flash forward to today, we're using multiple different tools, multiple different platforms to whatever the client needs to build their experience. We want to help bring the technology and make it work for them, because too often planners will choose technology and for some reason it goes wrong and then they decide to go in a different direction. Well, we want to help guide them and coach them along the way as they're building out their agendas and recommend what solutions make the most sense for their event strategy.
Yeah, and it's quite the introduction you had to the world of events. It actually seems as if a lot of people in the industry first got their taste of events through the music industry. And from there, you just naturally fall in love with the planning aspect behind it, the organization, meeting the artists. It's a lot of fun. And we actually had a few guests of the podcast before you. They got their start in the music industry, and then they transitioned into the world of conferences, trade shows, galas, and all of that. But I could see how that would draw you in.
Just the idea of putting those on stage, whether it's just their ideas or their messages to others, and really allowing that opportunity to be heard by so many is really powerful, because then they can take that message back to their communities and make an impact from an event, which not too many other experiences offer that. For
sure. And you also brought up an interesting point around how the pandemic impacted your current organization and how you adapted. Obviously, the pandemic it brought a lot of hardships, and a lot of organizations, a lot of individuals suffered. But there was an opportunity for select organizations that were positioned in the right place, in the right time, and took advantage of it for them to skyrocket. And here at Feedloop, we were lucky enough to benefit from some of that. I've been following along with Endless Events for quite some time, led by your wonderful leader, Will. You guys were able to take advantage of that, and you're in a really, really good position right now. So I'm glad to see that your organization was able to capitalize on the opportunity that the pandemic presented. And it's been a really exciting journey to watch. So kudos to you, Mitch, and the rest of the team.
I think it's just really made people think differently about planning their events for the entire year. They need to think about how can they make their attendees more a part of their organization, rather than just maybe that one event that they were traditionally planning. And technology is one of the ways that's really helped make that easier.
Right. So I do want to dive into tech, but we'll save that for later on in the conversation. I'd like to take a bit of a step back, though, and learn just more generally about your organization, Endless Events, and what you offer your clients. So for those who are listening, for those in the audience, can you give us an overview of what an event production agency does?
So when you hear about working with a production company or an event agency, essentially what they want to do is help you amplify your messaging. A lot of times what that really is for us is it's focused on your content. So it's traditionally at Endless Events, our bread and butter focused on in person. So we brought the lighting and the stage and the sound and the live stream to the physical venue. But now you have so many more attendees who may not be able to travel into your event, or maybe that's just their preference and how they want to attend their event. So being able to find new ways to work with the client and their overall. One of the challenges that we saw was that too often you're working with an in-person agenda, and you're trying to cram it into either a mold of a virtual format, but you really have to take a step back. And that's why Endless Events focuses a lot on event strategy, because we'll work with our clients to figure out what's the best time of day to host their overall event. Are there any other regions they should start targeting? Because one of our overall missions is just to make content and events more accessible for those who can attend. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that, but it definitely can get more costly the more that you're bringing in interpretation or captioning into that experience. So, but for clients that are still working on that journey to get to a more, to take their format to a more international level, because a lot of times they think that, well, my event's always only been in this region, or it's always only been for, the clients that I currently have. And that could be a very small scope, but being able to help clients put their content out even after the event in creative ways is something that we have to think about when working with clients and their overall event strategy. The more that you can work with a production company or agency for more than one event, it'll help them kind of understand your workflows. And really the goal that why you want to work with an event agency or a production company is maybe you don't have enough bandwidth on your team, or maybe you don't have enough time on your hands to execute the overall event that you want to produce. So that's where a team can really come in handy. And like I mentioned, the more you work with them, the more that the overall event just seems cohesive and they really become a part of your team.
So it's more of a long-term partnership, a strategy that unveils and unrolls over multiple events and possibly
I think that's
even
a goal that
years.
Planners should have when they're, looking at different vendors, different production companies. But one challenge that you might have is maybe your production company is only based in XYZ city. But that's one of the benefits to working with Endless Events is we're nationwide and we really can travel to where where you want to host your event. We just had an event that it was a leadership conference that took place and had a hub in Washington, D.C., but it also had a spoke of attendees out in Barcelona. So our team went out and supported them as well.
Oh, very cool. So to ensure I understand that properly and to get this out to the listeners, because I've seen this come up more and more frequently, is you did the hub and spoke model where you've got the hub as the main city and that's got an in-person cohort. You're then possibly broadcasting that virtually to people tuning in remotely, but then you've got a spoke city set up in can't remember the name of the city that you mentioned, but this is another in-person event that's separate from the major in-person event, but this is another place for attendees to gather in a separate city could even be in an entirely different
the
country.
Organizer knew exactly where their attendees were based, and because they've had so much success in those regions in the past, they wanted to host a more localized portion of the event that was closer and more easy to access for the attendees on that side of the world.
All right, so Kyle, just to quickly summarize what you mentioned there. So in terms of an event production agency, what they can do for you, it's a lot. It doesn't necessarily have to be the full package. But event production agencies, you can come in, you can help an organization to shape out their overall event strategy. From there, when it comes to the execution of the individual events, you can take everything, or you can handle just the production, you can handle just the speaker management side of things. So it really is on a case-by-case basis, but you can essentially come in and specialize in a certain aspect of the event, or you can come in, understand the organization's strategy, goals, and objectives, and then take over the entire event.
Yeah, it's true. It's really great if you have a partner that can be flexible and just work on, the hats that you need to hold. Because, a lot of times we'll have clients that'll come to us and say, we only need help with our platform and app build out. And that's all right. We want to support them. We want to help understand their event. But one thing that's great is we can then see the challenges that they may have faced from this event and then be able to recommend alternative solutions for the next event.
Yep. So more of a strategic consultant role. Okay. Now, I imagine this doesn't come for free. I imagine this may actually come at a fairly high price tag. So what type of organizations, who are you typically appealing to for your
We work with a
clientele?
lot of associations, with finance corporations, medical corporations, legal as well. So really any type of bucket can work with Endless Events. We primarily are focusing with corporate events or business conferences or sales kickoffs and trade shows. But how you kind of price an event agency or a production company is it really depends on the services, like you mentioned, that you're listing out. So if you're renting equipment, it'll depend on where they're sourcing equipment from, or where they have to bring the equipment from, or how long, or what venue are we working inside of, because maybe we're going to utilize the venues, AV. So we work with the client's budget. Essentially, that's kind of our first, some of our first questions is we kind of understand where the client currently is, where they're looking to go, and then what we can offer that fits within their needs at that time. So sometimes the client is just looking to crank out pre-recorded sessions, and maybe they don't have the team members to do that. So that's something that can be very affordably done. Whereas sometimes clients might just end up not doing pre-recorded sessions, or might have to cut back on their sessions just because they think that they don't have the time or the money to do it. But it really isn't that costly to do it. And you're seeing great quality, being able to have a live technician in the room with your speakers as they're going through, so you can hear if sirens are going off or if their Wi-Fi went out. You can really take the time with them, and I think your overall speakers feel more, catered and comforted when you are providing that extra experience to your speakers.
Right. So there are various price points, and I think the important piece that the audience needs to take away here is that if they are going to approach an event production company for assistance, then have the conversation with your team beforehand, identify what your budget is, and be transparent with that. Like, as a salesperson, it is very helpful when a client comes, or a prospective client comes and says, hey, Mitch, we're interested in doing X, Y, and Z, and we have a budget of $20,000. Because understanding their budget allows me to present a number of different packages. I can present the Toyota that is well within their limit. I can present the Cadillac that is right at their limit. And then I could also present, hey, this is the Ferrari. This is how much more it would cost you. And these are the benefits you're going to receive. So having that budgetary information on hand is actually very helpful. So audience, listeners, be sure to communicate that to the event production agencies, the event technology platforms, really any vendor you're out there recruiting help for, because it'll help them to best guide you and present the most affordable and the most appealing option.
Of course, a production company or agency will want to build you a Ferrari. So yeah, if you don't give them if you don't give them any guidance, they're going to take you for a wild ride. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, and there might be some sticker shock there for sure. Awesome. So one other item I want to pick your brain on, Kyle, is the fact that a lot of organizations already have their own internal event planners. Sometimes it's full-on event planning departments. So when does it make sense for an organization to look for support from an agency like Endless Events?
I would say it really starts with taking a look at the recordings from your past event. You have to kind of take note of how did the room look, and was it to your expectations? How did the camera shots look? Were they to your expectations? Were the video graphic transitions where you're bringing in animations or lower thirds? Did that really seal the deal for that content for you? If it didn't, any one of those are an opportunity for where an event agency or production company can help, sweeten up your content. They can help you source the different cameras to bring in, or bring in a different technical producer to call the show on site. So there's not really any time that is wrong to have a discussion with them, because they may have ideas for your event that you haven't even thought of. We love working with clients that have a built-in, event department, because there's no one that knows your event better than that department and your attendees. But sometimes if you are continuously working in the same event, the same dates, the same city, the same format, you limit yourself. So it does take, it is helpful to just get an outsider's perspective and approach to how they would take your event format. And maybe if it's not this event that it makes sense to work with them on, maybe it's another event that you can test the waters with them and see what that experience would look like. Because like we discussed, if you're hosting an event outside of your traditional location, that's where it brings in an opportunity to look for a partner that can meet you where you want to host your event.
Yeah. So it seems the real value here is bringing in new ideas, fresh perspectives, new ways to look at your event strategy and possibly evolve it into an entirely different beast and something that adds on a lot of new fun and engaging elements that your team internally just hadn't considered.
And like we mentioned before, like to adding captioning and interpretation into your sessions, it's not just something that you might be able to learn overnight, you and your events team. And it might not be something that's worth you and your events team time. We want you to focus on the most crucial parts of the planning for those sessions. Let the event production or agency company work with their own interpretation or captioning vendors to ensure all the pieces are in place for when you arrive on site, your attendees are going to hear the other languages without any issue.
Yeah, sometimes those specialized areas, those specialized activities, it's just best to outsource for rather than trying to learn the ropes and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Completely agree. All right. So we earlier on in the conversation, you were talking a lot about event tech. I know from following you on LinkedIn and on your blogs that you are a huge tech nerd. I am too. I also know that your team places major emphasis on event technology. You invest a lot of resources into different technology solutions and staying up to date on what's going on in the event tech industry. Why is that? Why is technology a crucial part of your organization's strategy?
It really kind of falls down to making events more accessible and easy to attend. If you don't have technology, then you won't be able to turn that microphone on for that speaker. It's more, the more that you can bring technology into events, it also helps you planners make more informative decisions about their events. Too often you go in blind after the event and not really understand who was attending, how long they were attending, why were they attending. So we really, the more that you can bring in technology from the beginning of when your attendees are engaging with your marketing all the way to the end of when they're watching on-demand content with your event, the more you can connect that as one like centralized ecosystem of technology, it really helps make, one, it's going to be more secure, so you're not having data floating around in the ether. And two, it's going to help you, it's going to help the planners really understand who's attending their events and make their events better based on the insights that they gain from that. One of the things that I saw on LinkedIn is a bar chart that it was one side is enormously high and one side is enormously low. The high side is talking about big data, all the data that's out there, but the low side is talking about there's very little insights about that. So if being able to have technology assist you to help make those decisions is definitely great. And it also creates unique experiences. Being able to have conversations from two simultaneous events that are going on and have them talk to one another with, a virtual MC that's blending it all together. You're creating so much more, content that can be used later on, rather than just having this event that was something that was, you had to be there to see it. Planners spend so much money putting their event together. So being able for them to hold on to it, repurpose it, and share it with others, I think that we believe that's really powerful.
Absolutely. And you bring up an interesting point. Something that we've actually discussed on the podcast a few times is that there is a growing demand from attendees in terms of events. Previously, event planners could get away with just putting out good content and having that content accessible and be really engaging. But now at this point, with the variety of events that are out there, the accessibility of events, the fact that I can attend an event virtually, that means I'm going to be more selective with the ones that I go in person to. It seems there's a growing demand for experiences at events, making memories and just wowing the audience as a means to get their attention and say, hey, this is an event that you need to come to out of all the other noise that's going on in the industry. And what you've said here is that technology is something that you can use to make those memorable experiences, make a stickier event for people to want to come back to year after year.
And it's also a way to keep that audience going. Rather than say, well, I'll see you next year. No, you can continue to network. You can continue to share ideas, and even host mini, meetups with those that maybe you're in your region or also like-minded, or you just want to do a meetup with your organization. Being able to add technology into the mix where that event didn't die after the event date, that's very powerful.
Right. And I just want to highlight that for the audience. So what you're saying here is instead of doing the typical 3-day annual conference where people come in person, it's a big fun party for 3 days, they leave and nothing happens. What you're saying is you can use event tech to really expand the duration of the event in the sense that, sure, you've got the 3-day live event, but afterwards, what you can do is you can upload those recordings into a virtual hub, a virtual portal where attendees can go in and watch that content whenever they want. You could also host networking parties every month in that environment. So you're taking the concept of an event being that static 1, 2, 3-day experience, and you're expanding that to be more of a year-round community.
You're spot on,
is that right?
And one thing that's exciting is you have to be creative and not just essentially make it another website or a landing page for people to come to. So one way that you can kind of make it something that people have to go into is capture some additional sessions and content at your in-person event or at your virtual event, and don't have them go live on that event day, for the live stream audience.
Yep.
Put that additional content in the platform as bonus content that they get to see now because they're going into the experience after the event. So it's a lot of what kind of content you're putting in there, when you're putting it in there, and making sure that as planners, you can listen to and actually see how people are reacting, to the content. That's really great. Sometimes as planners on event day, there's so many, things that you're trying to put out and fires going on that you kind of miss out on seeing what is the real-time sentiment that my attendees are having here. And that's why it's great to have, more of a team behind you, like an agency or production company, because it allows you to be present and ask your attendees, how is this going? And actually be able to see their reactions to the speakers you bring to your event or the experiences that you're catering to them.
Love it. So Kyle, you've been kind enough to share some really actionable insights for our listeners to take away. Things like seek help from an event production agency and get them involved early, get them involved with the overall strategy, design, and development, and know that as a customer of an event production agency, you're going to get the most value out of this agency when you work with them for an extended period of time, and they really get to understand your organization, your audience, your events, and help you shape that over the long term. So that's one takeaway we got from you today. Another takeaway we got is utilize event tech, invest in event technology, stay up to date on the latest trends. You don't necessarily have to go out there and get the Ferrari and stay up to date on all the newest technologies that are out there, but take your time to invest in event technology. Ensure that you're looking after key things like accessibility, multi-language support, if that's a priority for your organization. Now, aside from seeking help from an event production agency and investing in event technology, are there any other tips and tricks that you can share with our listeners on how they can take their event strategy to the next level?
One of my favorite parts about the event, the networking opportunities, but one of the challenges that we've seen over the past few years is if you just give your attendees the ability to network, have a one-on-one video call, or to join a group, room, that's nice, but they don't know how to use it, or they might not know when to use it or why they should be using it. So you almost have to consistently, recommend, okay, we're going to this place now. We're transitioning to this area of the platform. Like really walk through, the experience with the attendees. And the earlier you can do that, even having, some materials before the event so they know what to expect, or bringing them into the platform before the event so they can even get their feet wet or into the app so they can start building their schedule. That you'll see more use of your attendees using it on the event days. Sometimes, although that you have the ability to do that, it might be a challenge for them to find the time to get to that feature. And as a planner, if you look back at your analytics and you say, oh, well, nobody had a meeting, I guess we don't need a platform that can do meetings anymore. We don't want you to stop that, that thought process there. We want to help you find, maybe you need to have more breaks in your agenda that are meant for you to do the networking. Or maybe you, rather than just having generic open networking, maybe you need to have more topic-based networking that is moderated by one of your exhibitor or sponsor members, so that at least you're bringing in, 10 members from that organization who can be able to share their perspective. And maybe there's something that I can add value to, in that conversation. So I think that's one of the ways that we've been seeing content more exciting is when you're involving your audience as well, but also knowing there needs to be a balance, because I've heard some events recently that attendees are traveling to. It's almost like a nonstop, what do you think about this topic? What do you think? And, some attendees, they just want to be spoon-fed, information. Like, I'm attending this event because I want to learn from you. They don't necessarily want to participate. So you do have to really, the more you are hosting events, to start creating and building upon these personas of your attendee, because you shouldn't just be planning your events to cater to one type of people who are attending your events. Recognize and realize that there are multiple types of people attending your event, some that really want to engage, some that just want to take it back, and make sure that you're catering to both.
Great. That's some fantastic advice, Kyle. I love it. And I know I've taken up a lot of your time today, so I don't want to take up much longer. But the last item I want to hear about is your latest project, the EventProfs Community.
Yeah.
What is this?
Will Curran at MS Events, he started a Slack group a couple of years back.
And sorry, he's the CEO, correct?
Events,
Eventless?
He started a Slack community called EventProfs Unite about 2 or 3 years ago. And when he did that, it was really awesome to see introductions from event professionals all over the world saying where they're planning events or what their role is at events. And then there was also a thread for I need help. So members would continue to post about I'm looking for a vendor in this area. Have you sent swag out to your attendees? Like, have you worked with this vendor before? Really getting the feedback that you want that's immediate, and you don't have to go to like a reviews page to really understand, or find the solution you're looking for. You're getting, this planner, you tried that last week and this is how it worked for them. So we decided to take this community outside of Slack and into like an event platform or mobile app, just like a client may decide to do for their event. because they might not decide if they want to go into a community model.
Yep.
They may not think that Slack or Discord is the best long-term strategy, or maybe it'll just be a tool, a part of their community strategy, because it doesn't offer as much branding opportunities or spaces for you really to have, virtual events or meetups, essentially as easily as, a community platform could. So being able to add more additional networking opportunities, weekly sessions, and we also are spotlighting just any events that are going on in the industry. Our agenda is kind of like an ongoing events calendar of what you should be attending or what's going on. So we encourage anyone who's involved in events to come join our sessions or to teach someone about what you know. What I do is I lead a roundtable each week that's called KPIs with Kyle. And we talk about, what are the challenges we're having at our events from a high level? And those that are listening in, they're providing their ideas, they're providing what's worked for them. And it's just a short audio only conversation where we just chat about how can we redirect what we're doing to see the increase in the KPIs that planners are looking for. So whether it's any topic you know about in the industry, there's something that you can teach another event professional about. And this EventProfs community is a place where you can do that. So we invite you to apply at eventprofscommunity.com. Every month, a brand new bunch of members join the community. So you're not just jumping into something all by yourself. You're joined with a bunch of new members in the EventProfs community.
Yep.
And we're really excited to see what new members content, what they're going to host, and mini events or meetups that the EventProfs community will grow into.
I'm sold. I want to sign up. Let's do this. We'll share that in the show notes as well. So it's EventProfsCommunity.com.
Easy peasy.
Correct? Okay, great. All right. We'll share that in the show notes. EventProfs Community seems like an incredible initiative. Love it. Such a tremendous project that your team has on the go. But for you, Kyle, you're a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure people in the audience are going to want to connect with you, either to have a conversation or just follow along with some of the great content you put out there. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
First, you can absolutely find me on LinkedIn. I always love to react or comment on things that you have going on at your events, as well as find us in the EventProfs community. Like I mentioned, we're doing weekly roundtables that talk about what's going on directly with your events, or you can hear about what's going on at others' events. So I'm helping bring those conversations together.
Beautiful. Well, Kyle, you've been really kind with your time today, so we are going to wrap this up. Again, just want to say thank you so much. I learned a lot in this conversation. It's always great connecting with you. I think the audience is going to get a lot of value out of this. So thank you for your time, Kyle. And to everyone in the audience, that wraps up our Where People Meet podcast episode on how an event production agency can help you to level up your event strategy with the knowledgeable Kyle Kocinski. Thanks for your time today, and we'll see you next time on the Where People Meet podcast.